We have split the organization through stakeholders as first internal stakeholders, everything that's internal to the organization on the left. And that is both for social dimension in terms of measurement indicators. So we've looked at what do organizations measure, transitioning organizations, but also social enterprises, because that's whom we've been working with for years. So the internal stakeholders are all the people that are paid by the organization or by the organization's contractors. So everything that's human rights, quality of life at work, equality, gender equality at work, etc., inclusion, diversity, all these are internal stakeholders. So for instance, outputs, as Dalia explained very well, so I won't go over the difference between outputs and outcomes. I'm sure you all understand the difference now. You would have, for instance, a percentage of disabled staff that are over the compliance requirements, because obviously if you want to have a positive impact, compliance is just the minimum. So if you want to have positive impact, you want to go over the minimum compliance requirements by the law, if there is a law for a minimum percentage of disabled staff in your organizations, as there is in France, for instance, where it needs to be 6% of staff for large organizations. Need to be disabled, otherwise the organization will kind of pay fines, etc. That's one way of encouraging organizations to hire, to be more open and more inclusive in their recruitment process. And then internal outcomes or impact, for instance, could be, the fact that there is, through a number of diversity and inclusion policies, improved feeling of inclusion by disabled staff. That would be an outcome or an impact, depending on how you measure it, with all the technical elements that Dalia shared. And the environmental dimension can also be the environmental impact of the organization. Can be scope 1 or 2, which is based on the organization's buildings and activity, core, CO2 emissions, and then the impacts will be the decrease, for instance, of CO2 emissions proportional to the same area, obviously, compared to the previous year. And so that's actually that's the smallest part in terms of number of people affected, because it's only paid staff and only the internal dimension. And the societal dimension will be everything that's external stakeholders. And so, as you saw in the OECD definition, for instance, the social stakeholders will be the customers, the clients, and the communities. And that's what IFRAG calls impact materiality. And you will have in organizations impact measurement processes, for instance, as an output, the number of clients. If you're an energy company, the number of clients who have used energy saving products. That's just an output. Just the fact that they have used it doesn't mean it's had a positive impact on them. The outcomes or impacts would be for these customers or communities that they've actually had an increase in economic well-being through the reduction in energy bills for the clients. And if you take the same type of organization, they will have an environmental impact through what they sell. So it could be the number of energy products sold. If there is a decrease in or a reduction in CO2 emissions through this selling of articles, which will be as an outcome then a comparable decrease in the consumption of the clients through the energy product. And that will be the environmental indicator of the same service or product around energy. So we have taken this framework and we have analyzed a number of reports of transitioning organizations, which I'm going to share with you. But before that, what we know, and which you'll all be familiar with, is what Dalia was talking about just before, is that social impact measurement or outcome measurement will be concerned with this box here. And that's what most social enterprises in the social and solidarity economy, charities, NGOs, etc., have been working on for the last 15 years.